Hello friends, welcome to this Parsi special video from Culture Katha. Before we press the accelerator on the Mahabharata series I've started recently, I wanted to take the opportunity of the Parsi New Year called Navroz to bring to you this special video on a people with whom Hindus share several cultural similarities. Friends, for most of us, the very mention of the word Parsi brings to us the names of some great business magnates and business houses in India. The Tatas, the Vadias, the Godrejs, etc. Yes, we owe it to the Parsis who have brought to us everything we use, well, almost everything, from soaps to locks to textiles to liquor. But beyond this, how much do we really know about the Parsis? How many of us really know about their history, their culture, and the surprising similarities they share with the Hindus? Well, who better to tell us about them than Subhash Chandra Rao Malya, a dear friend of mine who is also a Parsi culture enthusiast. Introducing this highly talented and multifaceted Subhash Malya could well take a whole video, but I'll try and keep it short. Subhash Malya is an engineer by qualification, passion and profession. Employed with a prestigious public sector unit, his interests spread far beyond his profession towards aesthetics, mythology, photography, history, particularly marine history, archaeology and whatnot. Mind you, he is not just an amateur enthusiast, but has formally qualified himself in most of these fields. He is also a trained psychotherapy, counseling and skilling coach and also conducts training programs in these areas. On one fine spring evening in Mumbai, I, along with some of my friends, decided to join him on a walking and talking tour of the largest Parsi settlement in Mumbai, the Dadar Parsi colony. We wanted to explore the rich heritage of the Zoroastrians in India. Sharing with you here some interesting glimpses of the talk he gave us on Parsi culture.
Sahib Ji, I'm starting with a very Parsi greeting. On the onset, I want to thank Sumatri Sridhar and Cultural Katha for giving me this opportunity to talk about Parsi culture. We know the Parsis as Zoroastrians who worship the fire at the Agyari or the fire temple. Parsis arrived in India in the 6th century AD and landed in a place called Sanjan in Gujarat. So when the Parsis landed in India at Sanjan, they met a local king called Jade Rana. Now, the king asked them to introduce themselves. The Mobed or the priest, the head of the group, then introduced his people through 15 Sanskrit shlokas. He introduced themselves as the prayers of fire, the prayers of sun. He said they could be easily identified because all the members of the community, irrespective of the gender, wore a thin cotton waist called the sadra and tied a reef knot around the waist called the kasti. The king, after listening to the 15 shlokas, then replied in Sanskrit, which is the 16th shloka, and these 16 shlokas are recorded in a book called Kissa-i-Sanjan, the story of Sanjan. They are so sacred that it is compulsory to recite these shlokas during every wedding ceremony. What did the king ask for them in the 15th shloka? Is some promises. One was that they will not convert people to their religion, hence the blockage of any non-Parsi entering their fire temple. Two, that the ladies would wear Indian dress, hence the initial of the Ghara sari, which is a very, very famous embroidered sari which is worn by a Parsi lady during her wedding. Three, that they will not carry any arms. Now, what is the very basic of Zoroastrian religion? Is they work on 3 H's. The 3 H's are Parsi words. Sorry, I'm not able to pronounce them, but they are good thoughts, good words, and good actions. Second thing, the god is Ahura Mazda, who is an embodiment of a good force, the force of truth, the force of ultimate truth called Asha. So the more they do charity, the more they come nearer to Asha. Third, they are judged upon how they treat animals, especially the dog. The dog is one of the most referred to animal in their mythology. And that is why you will see there is a special bonding between the dogs and the Parsis. Fourth, it is one of the oldest religions where it was gender equal right from its inception. So, the Navjot ceremony is common for both the boys and the girls. It is written in their scriptures that the first man, Kayumar, when he died, he was killed by Angramania, Ahriman. So when he died, his body was kept kept in the sun for drying. Okay, no mention of vulture is there. The main 2 elements are water and fire, Atar and Abhan. Now they knew that if they bury the body, it will sort of contaminate the earth and water also. Okay, so this is the concept of groundwater. Okay, you have to remember they were in Persia. उधर बारिश नहीं गिरेगा, थोड़ा ग्राउंड वाटर मिलेगा, उसके ऊपर डिपेंडेंस, द होल civilization is depending. Second thing, fire is their god and they don't want to pollute the fire by burning a dead body. So when vultures eat, they only eat the skin and muscle. The bones fall, that is why it is a well. The center of the well is where all the bones fall. So periodically the Kandis go. The Kandis are what I said, Mahadalit in the Parsis. They go there and they push the bones in the center of the well. Okay, once it comes to a certain level, that Tower of Silence or Dokma is closed. The fascinating thing about Parsi culture or Parsi mythology is that there are a lot of similarities and we share a lot of mythological characters between Parsi and Vedic mythology. So, as you see, we are standing just outside the Atarnon Madrasa. The Rig Veda starts with the first verse of Agni. The Vedas talk about rituals to please Agni, which are yagnas, and the main priest at the yagna is Hotra. That's where we get the word Agnihotra. And Atharnon is the caste of priests, the priestly caste among the Zoroastrians, and you find that the words are very similar. The similarity goes even further. The Zoroastrians, like the Hindus, have 4 classes of people. The priestly class, the warriors, the Kshatriyas, the traders, and the craftsmen. One of the many important characters in Persian mythology is Raja Jamshed or Jamshedji, and that's where you have the New Year Jamshedji Nowruz. Now, according to the Orientologist and the linguist like Max Muller, have deciphered the word and Yama becomes Jama and Shed is a honorary title like Sharma becomes Sharmaji. So, he is one of the most important characters in the epic, the Shahnameh. Now, Jamshed Raja rules for around 700 to 800 years and his kingdom is described to be so peace-loving, so prosperous, like there is no disease, there is no death, and the father and the son look like brothers. Now you will get exactly the same description in the Ramayana, in the Valmiki Ramayana, when Valmiki describes Ramaraj. Okay, so Jamshed as Yama, the Raja as almost Ramaraj, and almost every invention from making of bricks to building of houses to making of cloth and jewelry, everything happens in his Raj. We know the story of Vritta and Indra. And when Indra defeats Vritta, he becomes Vrittan. Vrittan in Persian mythology is called Viratragna, which is then modified into Behram. Now we know that a lot of when we pray, we ask for boons or wishes. So Behram is a Zoroastrian angel who grants wishes. Now how does the Behram Puja be done? The very important component of Behram Puja is narration of a story. And the narration of a story is about a carpenter called Mushkin. And the story is called Mushkin-e-Asan, which is very similar to Mushkil-e-Asan. And he's actually a Vignaharta for them. Isn't it very similar to Satyanarayan Puja, where we all have to listen to our story of the Satyanarayana? So as there is good and bad in every religion, so the good in parts of religion is notified by the spirit of Asha or Ahura Mazda, the god, and the not so good or the evil is Druj, the negative force, which is Angra Mania. Now life is all about choices. At every moment you can choose between good or you can choose between bad. That's what the whole life is all about. Now this negative has a king called Zohak. Now Zohak always tries to destroy what has been created. And one of the kings of mythology, Fardun, he attacks Jamshed and kills him. Now why did Jamshed get killed? Because Jamshed suddenly ego became inflated. He thought he can replace God, and suddenly his bad deeds became more, and Zohak chased him and cut his body into two and he died. Generations later, Fardun, who was again for the good, went and attacked Zohak. But before he was born, Zohak had a dream that someone would attack him. And then he went to Arnavaz, who was Jamshed's daughter, and told her to interpret that dream. And Arnavaz told him that a child is going to be born who is going to kill you. So, what does Zohak does? He kills every child in his kingdom. The mother of Fardun takes him, crosses to another village and gives him to a foster parent, where a holy cow nurtures the child. Friends, do you find something similar? The Balakrishna story? So you find here, there are many stories not only when we are living, but even after we are dead. So after dead, the dead soul has to cross a dark river. In Hinduism, it is called Vaitarni. And remember who accompanied Yudhishthira on his last journey? The dog. And so in Parsi culture, the soul, the good soul, can cross a bridge called the Chinwad Bridge, which is taken care of by the dog. And it is clearly written in the Parsi scriptures that taking care of the dog adds to good deeds. See, Parsis and dogs, most of them have pets as dogs. Okay, now we remember the Parsis for all their quirky surnames, right? So someone is an engineer, a plumber, you will find a Desai, a Joshi, because they didn't have surnames and they adopted their professions as surnames. Okay, so a person who's selling Bartley became Bartleywala, okay, and a person who gave loans to the Queen of England became Ready Money. Of course, soda bottle opener wala is pure creativity, but I don't have to remind you what profession Daruwala has. So as the Parsi says, live your life, make your choices between good and bad, and enjoy Dikara, have fun.